BBC has written to President Trump, apologizing for the way a news program edited a speech he gave on the day of the US Capitol riots. A BBC statement said the edited clip had given the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action. The broadcaster has, however, rejected his demand for financial compensation. Mr. Trump's lawyers have threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion. Correspondents say the White House sees this incident as part of what it describes as the fake news media who are out to get Mr. Trump. So one potential political calculation is that the president might decide to try and make more of an example of the BBC. But they say it'll boil down to how big a player the BBC is in the American media market and how much it cuts through to voters and those people Mr. Trump may be seeking to get on board. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by Arise special correspondent James Blue. Good to see you, James. So the BBC responds to President Trump's threat to sue for $1 billion, expressing sincere regret for the Panorama broadcast. Tell us more about what the corporation had to say, as briefly as you can, because we have a rather abridged program today.
No problem. I mean, basically, the program said that, yes, they did make a mistake, that, yes, the clip was put together in a way that it should not have been, but that since it did not air in the United States, that there was no harm, no damage done to President Trump. You know, Charles, one of the big sort of issues here, the corporation found out about the mistake a while ago, and we're now just sort of hearing about it at a very at a delay. And what actually happened is, it turns out they removed the documentary from circulation within the iPlayer, within the sort of Panorama archive. And it just suggests that there was something going on at the BBC where they knew they had made a mistake. They knew they needed to sort of remove it and sort of cease and desist. But they did not make that public until the comments of their editorial advisor was leaked to the Telegraph newspaper here in London. And so it really is an indicator of the BBC making a mistake, trying to clean it up, but not being public about it until it was leaked.
Well, there's also, I understand, James, a separate letter from the BBC's lawyers to Mr. Trump setting out 5 reasons why they say, much as they regret it, they don't believe there's an action in defamation. One of them is that it wasn't broadcast in the US, and when the documentary was made available on the iPlayer service, it was geo-locked to the UK. And they also said that Donald Trump did win the last election, so it didn't do him any reputational harm. And they also said that the clips were not maliciously edited. There are also a couple of others. How key are these points in your assessment?
Well, these are key points because this is what the BBC is using to try to suggest that there was, quote unquote, yes, they made a mistake, yes, there was harm. It wasn't on purpose, and therefore it has no consequence to the fact that President Trump was reelected. President Trump, apparently the audience in the US did not see President Trump in this bad light. And so what they're trying to do is present these mitigating circumstances. I believe what the BBC have done is sort of missed the boat, because what President Trump and his team are really going to point out is that it's not the sort of after effect. It's not the fact that, they didn't mean to defame him. It's really sort of the process. In what news organization would someone be able to put these two phrases together, suggesting that he was going to go down and lead the attack on the U.S. Capitol in 2021, when the vote was to be certified? That is the real problem. And the fact that the BBC has sort of ignored and not commented on that particular issue, I think is a real indicator of some of the challenges within the organization, which now doesn't really have a leader. The head of news has stepped down, the overall director general has stepped down, and their focus on process versus the real sort of culture that would allow something like this to happen I think is an indicator of the challenges within the organization.
Right. Well, I mean, the BBC's apologized to Mr. Trump, but says it won't pay compensation. I mean, will that be enough to satisfy the president? I mean, I wonder if you've had any reaction from the White House yet.
So there hasn't been direct reaction from the White House. I do know that the president and his private lawyers are really smarting for this fight. As you know, they were able to get $15 million out of CBS related to an editing problem with an interview with Kamala Harris. They were able to get $16 million out of ABC News because George Stephanopoulos, a former White House official himself, call President Trump a convicted sex offender, which he is not. And so the White House is smarting for a fight. And I think given the fact that they have pursued this quite aggressively in the past, I think they'll do so again. And I think the BBC, despite its effort to try to find a way to get through this without any damages, I think that is going to be very unlikely because I think the Trump team are going to pursue it wildly. Even if they don't win, the Trump team believes they do win if they can continue to characterize the press around the world, not just in the US, but also in the United Kingdom. And the BBC has a much broader remit and actual reach than any of the US networks. I think they will use it to their advantage.
So basically, lawyers for both parties are going to be moving chess pieces on a board, in a manner of speaking. I mean, what is your sense of the view in the United States about this case? I mean, do people believe there's a legal merit for the president's case?
I think the view in the United States, I mean, remember, Charles, this was a documentary that was not seen by many people in the US because it was geo-locked and it was not broadcast on the BBC channel in the United States. So I think a lot of people are sort of fresh and they're coming new to it. I think everyone recognizes that President Trump has played, fast and loose with things he's said. He's outright lied. And I think everyone really understands that. But Charles, where I think this is different, this is actually manipulation. Putting two pieces of tape together that creates a statement that did not come from President Trump's mouth. I think in the time of fairness, in the time of wanting to make sure people are actually doing their jobs the way they should do them, my sense is that the American public wants fairness. They want people and journalists to do things ethically. And I think this is a real instance where that did not happen. Charles, one of the things I find very surprising, why hasn't the editor of Panorama been shown the door? I mean, I can understand, yes, the buck stops with the president of the BBC News, but the editor of Panorama should have certainly have known that you don't allow an edit like that. In the places where I've worked and the newsrooms I've been in, that would be completely unacceptable. And I think there's a real sort of judgment that the BBC is really being tactical and not necessarily looking at what is the operational environment that will allow something so egregious to happen.
Well, you may well have a point there, James, but ultimately, if they can't come to an agreement between them outside court, it'll be for both parties to litigate in a court, won't it?
Yeah, and I think if you kind of look at the strategy of the Trump legal team, they will try to draw it out to the point where he can get to maximum benefit from any settlement or any particular court case starting. And so you could possibly see this becoming a tool in the midterm elections. And it really is, we are under assault from liberal media, biased media everywhere. This is just an example. And, please make sure I get to keep a Republican Congress, because otherwise it'll be the Congress and the media and all those people against me. And so you can really easily see how this could sort of move into campaign strategy to keep the Congress in Republican majority.
James, thanks very much indeed. James Blue is Arise special correspondent. He was talking to me on the line there from London.